1 million years ago, someone looked into a flame and changed the future of our species. We do not know who they were. We do not know where they lived. We do not even know if they understood what they had discovered. But we know what came next. Cities, empires, science, the internet, and billions of people living on a completely transformed planet. All of it can be traced back to one seemingly simple thing: fire. Today, it feels ordinary. You turn on a stove, you flip a switch, you light a lighter. But for most of human history, fire was a mystery, a wild force, a phenomenon that appeared from the sky or from forests in flames. For our early ancestors, fire was probably as frightening as it was fascinating. Yet at some point, something changed. Humans stopped running from fire. They began to control it. This may have been one of the most important decisions in the history of life on Earth. Why? Because fire did not just change the environment, it changed people. More specifically, it changed their bodies, it changed their brains, and it changed their destiny. The oldest solid evidence of regular fire use comes from sites that are hundreds of thousands of years old. Some discoveries even suggest an age of more than 1 million years. Researchers still debate the exact dates, but almost all of them agree on one thing: the control of fire was a turning point. Before fire, food was limited. Raw meat was difficult to chew, roots were tough. Plants contained toxins, digestion consumed time and energy. Then cooking appeared, and everything changed. Richard Wrangham, a professor at Harvard University, became known for a bold idea. He proposed that cooking directly contributed to the emergence of the modern human brain. This idea is known as the cooking hypothesis. At first glance, it sounds surprising. How could fire make a brain bigger? The answer begins with energy. The human brain is extremely expensive. Although it makes up only about 2% of body mass, it consumes around 20% of the body's energy. It is a greedy organ. It constantly needs fuel. And fuel was difficult to obtain in the prehistoric world. Cooking changed that equation. Cooked food is easier to chew, easier to digest, and it provides more calories that are available to the body. In a sense, fire functioned as an external processor. It began doing part of the work before food even entered the body. The result? More energy, less effort, more time, more resources for the brain. Over time, these advantages accumulated, generation after generation. But the effects did not stop there. Look at the human jaw. It is relatively small. Our teeth are smaller than those of many primates. Our jaw muscles are weaker. Why? Because we no longer needed to spend hours chewing raw, fibrous food. Fire took over part of that work. The body began to change. And when one part of the body uses less energy, another part can receive more. What would have happened if humans had never learned to cook? Our species might have looked completely different, perhaps with larger jaws, perhaps with smaller brains, perhaps without complex civilizations. Of course, evolution is complicated. There is no single cause. There is no single magical moment, but fire always appears at the center of the story. And there were other benefits too. Night was different before fire, very different. When the sun went down, darkness took control. Predators became active, visibility disappeared, risks increased. Fire changed that world too. It provided light, it provided warmth, it provided protection. For the first time, humans could extend the day. They could gather around the flames, they could communicate, they could share experiences. Some researchers believe that fire created the perfect conditions for the development of language and social cooperation. We do not have direct evidence, but the idea is fascinating. Imagine a group of prehistoric people on a cold night. The flames dance, the shadows move, someone tells a story, someone listens, someone learns. Within that circle of light was something more than warmth. It was the transfer of knowledge. And knowledge changes everything. Fire also changed human geography. Humans began surviving in colder regions. They were able to occupy new territories. They crossed difficult environments. They expanded the boundaries of their world. Without fire, many of those journeys would have been impossible. But there is also an irony. Fire gave us power, and power has consequences. Over time, humans learned to burn forests, to reshape landscapes, to transform entire ecosystems. Human control over nature began with a spark. Thousands of years later, that same force would power furnaces, factories, and engines. The Industrial Revolution was, in a sense, another chapter of the same story. The story of controlled energy, the story of fire. Today, the energy that lights our cities often comes from processes that involve the same fundamental idea: the release of stored energy. It all begins with our ability to control reactions that produce heat. Sound familiar? It should, because it is the same ability that began beside a prehistoric campfire. What do you see when you look at a flame? Most people see light, they see warmth, they see comfort. But history sees something else. History sees the beginning of a transformation that changed the human body, changed the way we eat, the way we think, the way we cooperate, the way we build the world. Fire was not just a tool, it was an invisible partner in evolution, a technology so old that it feels natural, so familiar that we barely notice it. But without it, modern humans might not exist. The next time you see a flame, look at it a little differently. You are not just looking at fire. You are looking at one of the forces that built the human mind. And perhaps the strangest thing of all is this: the species that learned to control fire eventually went on to control almost the entire planet. It all began with a spark, and that spark is still burning in every aspect of the modern world.